The water off the coast of Pozzuoli is doing something it has not done in nearly 5 centuries. On the morning of December, fishermen pulling their nets near the harbor noticed something disturbing. The sea was hissing, not the gentle lap of waves against a hull, but a violent bubbling churn that stretched across hundreds of meters. One veteran fisherman, Giuseppe Marino, who has worked these waters for 40 years, grabbed his phone and began recording. The footage shows dense fields of bubbles rising so fast, the surface looked like it was boiling. The smell hit next, sharp and sulfurous, the kind that stings your throat and makes your eyes water. Giuseppe said something he had never said before in all his years at sea. "We need to leave." Now, within 24 hours, the Italian National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology confirmed what locals feared. The seafloor beneath the Gulf of Pozzuoli is fracturing. Not in small, isolated patches, but along a 500-meter stretch that mirrors the ancient ring fault of the Campi Flegrei caldera. The cracks are not just surface level. They reach down into zones where superheated fluids and gases have been building pressure for years. Scientists monitoring the data from the Wright GPS station recorded something even more alarming. The ground is now rising at 2.5 centimeters per month, the fastest rate in over 40 years. In the last 30 days alone, more than 1,200 earthquakes have been registered beneath the city. Most are too small to feel, but dozens have been strong enough to crack walls, shake schools, and send families running into the streets at night. This is not the first time Campi Flegrei has shown signs of waking up. In 1538, the same warning signs appeared. The sea boiled, the ground rose. Birds went silent, and then, without warning, the earth split open. In just 1 week, a new mountain, Monte Nuovo, erupted from the fields west of Pozzuoli, burying villages and reshaping the coastline forever. The eruption was so violent that eyewitness accounts describe the sky turning black and the air filling with ash and fire. For the 3 million people now living within reach of this caldera, the question is not if history can repeat itself, but when. And right now, the signals coming from beneath the bay are stronger, stranger, and more unpredictable than scientists have ever recorded. The seafloor is breaking apart. The pressure is building, and the clock is ticking. To understand what is happening beneath Pozzuoli, you have to look at the numbers, and the numbers are getting worse. Since 2005, the ground has lifted by a total of 1.4 meters. That is taller than most adults, but it is not the total rise that worries scientists. It is the acceleration. In the past 3 months, uplift rates have doubled. The Wright GPS station, located in the center of the deformation zone, is recording vertical movement at rates not seen since the 1980s crisis, when 40,000 people were evacuated from the historic Rione Terra district. Back then, the ground rose so fast that the sea retreated, exposing mudflats where boats used to float. Buildings cracked, roads buckled, and the city nearly tore itself apart from the inside. Today, the situation is different, but the pressure is the same. INSAR satellite data from the European Space Agency shows the center of deformation is not on land anymore. It has shifted offshore directly beneath the Gulf of Pozzuoli. The interferogram maps reveal a bullseye pattern of ground movement, with the most intense uplift concentrated in a zone less than 3 kilometers from the harbor. This is the same area where fishermen reported the bubbling water. The seismic activity tells an even more urgent story. Between November 15th and December 10th, 2025, Impending recorded 1247 earthquakes. That is an average of 50 earthquakes per day. The largest, a magnitude 3.8 event on December 3rd, was felt across Naples and triggered evacuation drills in 3 schools. But it is not just the frequency that matters, it is the depth. Most of the earthquakes are clustered between 2 and 4 kilometers below the surface, right at the boundary where the brittle caprock meets the pressurized hydrothermal zone beneath. Fumarole temperature readings from the Solfatara crater paint the same picture. The BG sensor at the main vent has recorded temperatures exceeding 160 degrees Celsius, the highest since monitoring began in 2000. At PCRLE, the FLZ8 station is measuring carbon dioxide emissions at 1,500 tons per day, more than triple the baseline rate from just 2 years ago. These are not numbers you can ignore. Carbon dioxide does not just appear. Here is what scientists know for certain. The caprock, the layer of rock that sits like a lid over the pressurized reservoir below, is being stressed beyond its limits. Laboratory tests on core samples from the field show that after repeated cycles of expansion and contraction, the rock loses up to 40% of its tensile strength. Every earthquake, every pulse of gas, every centimeter of uplift weakens it further. The question scientists are asking now is not whether the caprock will fail, but how much more stress it can take before it does. So let me ask you this. If the ground beneath your city was rising this fast, if earthquakes were shaking your home every single day, if scientists were recording the highest gas emissions in decades, would you stay? Would you trust that the system will hold? Or would you start making plans to leave? Drop your answer in the comments, because what happens next could affect millions. What is actually happening beneath the surface? To understand the danger, you need to picture what lies below Pozzuoli. Imagine a giant pressure cooker buried 3 to 5 kilometers underground. Inside that cooker is a mix of superheated water, volcanic gases, and potentially molten rock. For decades, a thick layer of caprock has kept that pressure contained. But now, that lid is cracking. The fractures are not random. They follow the ancient ring fault system that defines the edge of the Campi Flegrei caldera. This fault system was created 39,000 years ago during a massive eruption that reshaped the entire Bay of Naples for centuries. It has remained dormant. But in the last year, something has changed. The pressure from below is forcing fluids and gases upward through these old fracture zones. As the fluids rise, they heat the surrounding rock, expand the cracks, and create new pathways to the surface. This is why the seafloor is bubbling. This is why the ground is rising at record speed. And this is why the earthquakes will not stop here, is the part that keeps scientists awake at night. The system is self-reinforcing. The more gas that escapes, the more the rock weakens. The more the rock weakens, the more pressure builds in new areas. It is a cycle that feeds itself. And right now, there is no way to stop it. The only question is where it leads. Will the pressure release slowly through continued gas emissions and small earthquakes? Or will it reach a critical threshold and trigger something far worse? Right now, over 3 million people live within the hazard zones of Campi Flegrei. Schools in Pozzuoli have already conducted emergency evacuation drills. Port operations have been disrupted. Families are seeing cracks appear in their walls overnight. Some residents have started packing emergency bags, just in case. The Italian Civil Protection Department has updated evacuation maps, but the reality is simple. The 1980s crisis forced 40,000 people to leave their homes. Many never returned. The historic Rione Terra district sat empty for decades. Today, the risks are higher. The population is larger, and the warning signs are stronger than ever before. The seafloor is fracturing. The ground is rising faster than it has in 40 years. The earthquakes are not slowing down. and the gas emissions are at record levels. So here is my final question for you. If scientists told you an eruption could happen within months, would you leave now or wait for an official evacuation order? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this information shocked you, hit that subscribe button. Because when Campi Flegrei makes its next move, you will want to know about it first. Stay informed, stay safe.